Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about episode 4 of Apocalypse. My makeup today is inspired by the one and only Michael Langdon, so that's why how I'm looking today. I'm actually doing an American Horror Story photo shoot today, and I'm very excited about it. The photos will be on my Instagram. It's going to be shot by my friend John Michael. He has an Instagram page or a photography page, so he's going to be doing the shoot, and I'm so excited. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the photos. Anyway, let's get started with the review. First of all, this episode was so jam-packed. I complained about episode 3 being a little bit boring, but episode 4, like, they took all the plot they could and just like packed it into this episode, I feel. So I don't even know where to start with this review. We are all over the place. We went back, obviously Coven is a primary season, revisiting this season, obviously. And then in this episode, we go back to the Hotel Cortez, and then obviously Murder House is an underlying season. So I just feel like this is the season for crossovers. Like, we always knew that they were all connected by something, but I feel like this is the season that is really proving it and making it very obvious and in your face how they're all related instead of just like references, although there was a reference in this episode to Freak Show as well, so we're just getting all the seasons. So we see younger Michael, he's still like the same age, but obviously he's, you know, it's before he becomes really what he is, how powerful he is and everything. So we see more of his backstory and Miss Mead's backstory, not the robot Miss Mead, but the living, real Miss Mead, his mother. I'm still a little confused on that storyline, but I did love that they made young Michael look exactly like his dad Tate. So I guess Miss Mead had found Michael somehow, and she's a Satanist, so maybe she tracked him down knowing what he was, or maybe she didn't know exactly how strong he actually was. I'm not really sure. I think it would make more sense if she, you know, found him and saved him, if she knew already that he was Satan or half Satan, or Satan was in his DNA or whatever. But that still leaves the question as to what happened to Constance. Obviously she's coming back this season. Jessica Lange is making an appearance, so it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out and what happened to Constance. So the horror in this episode was actually really well done, in my opinion. We got to see like bones breaking, like arms bending back, and I thought that was really cool. I really appreciate it when they do sprinkle in the horror elements, because that was something that the last few seasons have been missing, in my opinion, was like true horror imagery and scares and things. So there's actually been hints throughout this season, and with using the imagery of Baphomet, which is the satanic symbol. You see this behind Kathy Bates in the scene where she's, you know, talking to Michael and they're like praying before their dinner. And what I think that is implying is that Michael Langdon is not actually fully male. He's androgynous, which goes into Baphomet being, you know, having both male and female parts. So maybe Michael is just both male and female, or just, I don't know. I just don't think he's fully male. And then another hint towards that is later in the episode where the Warlocks, which I'll get into those guys coming into play, the Warlocks think that he could be the next Supreme, and they reveal that a man has never been able to beat women as far as magic goes. Like, they're not as strong as witches. That's because of their testosterone and whatnot. So they attribute his power to being the most powerful warlock. So there's implication that he's not fully male because he's able to beat the Supreme, although we don't know that yet. But obviously we know that he's not possibly really a warlock and that he's actually Satan, and that explains his powers. But I think it's interesting that he is possibly like an androgynous, you know, character in this season, and that explains certain things. So we get to go back like 3 years before the bombs went off and see the boys' school that is now the bunker, but we get to see it as a school for boys who are warlocks. I thought this was really interesting. I'm glad we got to see the backstory and see how they like tested their warlocks and the different like levels of power. There have been mentions of warlocks in previous seasons, in Coven obviously, and then also the term alpha has been used in Murder House as well, so I feel like that's a really subtle connection back to Murder House, which is, you know, supposed to be a prominent season in this season. It's when Vivien is pregnant with Michael, and she was pregnant with twins, and basically one of the twins died, and so the nurse referred to the surviving twin, Michael, as the alpha. So sorry I'm all over the place in this review. I was just kind of like taking notes and it's kind of all unorganized, but there's just so much like symbolism in this episode, I feel, that I really want to like talk about that mostly versus the actual plot and stuff, because I think the symbolism in this episode is the coolest part of it all. So another thing that happens that's, you know, kind of subtle, maybe not subtle, I don't know, is kind of the ode to today's society, being that, well, it's the opposite of today's society, obviously, because in this world, women are the most powerful. So I feel like it is like kind of talking about how today's society is going. I don't want to get too political about it, but you can make your own judgments on that. So obviously we're going to see more of the warlocks probably in the next episode. We'll probably see a battle between the witches and the warlocks. But given that we already see present day and we don't see much of the warlocks, I feel like they're not going to come into play that much more in this season, just given what we've already seen. I think during this kind of, not battle per se, I shouldn't say battle, but this like competitiveness of the warlocks trying to get a man in power, thinking that Michael Langdon is the most powerful warlock, I think they're all obviously going to realize that he's actually Satan or not a warlock or something's weird. Obviously we have one character who already suspects all this and is very suspicious of Michael in general. I actually saw a theory online that, you know, when the new Supreme, you know, comes out and is kind of proving themselves, the old Supreme starts to lose power. They become weaker and weaker as the new Supreme becomes stronger, and there's the scene where Michael comes back and he has Queenie and Madison with him that he had rescued, and then in that moment Cordelia faints. Now this, obviously he's not a witch, he can't be the Supreme, well, he's not a warlock, rather, he can't be the Supreme, so there is also a theory that maybe the next Supreme is one of the witches in the vicinity. I don't know, this is just a theory, obviously. She could just like pass out because she's like shocked that he could even bring back Queenie and Madison from their hells, so I just thought I'd throw that out there, see what you guys think about that. Also, I really like the idea of this whole season being angels versus demons, because there's, you know, kind of hints that Mallory might be an angel, and then obviously we have demonic Satan in Michael, so it'd be really cool if that was the case, because then that would kind of make this like a biblical apocalypse, which would be a really interesting twist in all of this, because the bombs would then be probably something else. So we learned that the reason why the 3 witches that were in the bunker didn't know that they were witches, because they had an identity spell put on them by Cordelia to protect them, because their powers are very much needed by the Coven. So obviously if you're a fan of Coven, you probably loved this episode. I really enjoyed it too, although I feel like it keeps adding so much plot, and for me it's not really answering a lot of questions that I have. Obviously I have to wait and see the whole season to really, you know, decide if things are as confusing as they are, but I assume that they're going to continue to answer questions and stuff. But this season was just packed full of like so many different seasons of American Horror Story, and also different storylines that were like meant to follow, and it's just a lot. But it's getting really good. I actually really like how the season is progressing and how this episode went. It was really entertaining to watch, and I was just like on the edge of my seat, especially when they were like testing Michael. I loved that with like the winter storm and everything. I thought it just really showed like the magnitude of his powers and how like scary he really can be. But of course I'd like to hear your thoughts about this episode. What are your personal theories? Any other symbolism that you caught in this episode or in this season at all? Leave all that down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.